Dealing with the objections. So, as we begin our journey in this direction, as we start looking at some of the options that we are presenting here as a form of these presentations, as we start debating them, as we start talking to other people, trying to get them on board, get them to understand what the whole master plan here is, what we're trying to achieve, what are high level objectives, people will be very reluctant to come on board, and people will be and again, if you think about it, I think all of us at some level are angry at the situation. We are jaded. We have maybe given up hope to a very large extent. The way things are right now, it's Pakistan is, I don't know what the textbook definition of a failed state is, but the way Pakistan is right now, the situation on the ground, the reality of what people are dealing with, what especially the middle and lower class of the country are dealing with, Pakistan cannot be too far away from being in a completely failed state. So it's not going to be easy. That said, let's go ahead and address some of the objections that people will most likely come up with, and let's be fair. Let's acknowledge what they are. People will say it'll never work. Nothing like this has ever worked before. Looking at the past record, even if something works temporarily, sporadically, fine, it will go back to the normal, whatever the normal is, and it will not be long lasting, and it just will not work. And again, it's not like we have a positive track record, so we could point our fingers at that particular time in the history of the country or at that particular implementation to say we'll just model that. We unfortunately don't have a history like that. Or people would say it's too late, too much damage has already happened. Clearly, Pakistan, where it is right now, the crossroad that we find ourselves on, if we were taking this journey, say 10, 15, 20 years ago, again, they would have been challenging even back at that time, but at least the gap between us and the other countries would not have been as monumental as what we are facing right now. So, it's too late. Is it too much damage has already happened? Perhaps. All systems are broken. This is a very valid argument that how do you start fixing something when all systems are broken? When how do you address one part of it without addressing the others? Things in real life are closely intertwined with each other. They are very closely connected. Very hard to decouple them. Take an example of homelessness. How do you possibly tackle the challenge of homelessness, eradicate them, without looking at the safety net that the society provides or not able to provide, or the lack of shelters, or even the job prospect, or the rent, or the affordable housing, or the mental health issues. All of those things are somehow directly or indirectly contributing to the plight of the homelessness in the country. How do you take one of these things at a time, address only that without looking at the whole en masse, what the whole solution looks like? Again, systems are closely intertwined, and they are broken. Very hard, very hard to make changes. Again, let's acknowledge that it's a fair argument, and that there's no accountability. So whether it's at the political leadership, or it's people who are sitting in high position, lofty position, they've got titles, and they are there to serve a purpose. They're there to serve the people, the citizenry, in whatever role, whatever capacity they are in. Are they truly doing that? And this sense of accountability, unfortunately, does not start and end with the people in lofty positions. It goes from top to bottom to everyone, every one of us. Do we feel that we are accountable? If we made a commitment to someone, do we always live up to it? Think about it. It's very easy for us to say something and then let it just be a wash and just move on from that. It happens. As a nation, we don't really feel accountable for what must happen no matter what. If someone is watching or someone is not watching what I got to do it. That's whole sense. I think we as a society, we don't have that, unfortunately. Your life, your loved ones, your property, nothing is safe. Again, how can you disagree with this when there are evidence, when there are incidents that people can point out, there are all kinds of anecdotal agreements, discussions, and then arguments that people would step forward. That look, see what happened to my uncle, or see what happened to my aunt, to my cousin, to my wife, to my husband, to my brother-in-law. And to my best friend, to my best friend's family, this is what happened. Someone ransacked their house. Someone they were flying in, and then this is what happened when they were on the way to the house. Again, all of those are reality. We cannot discount them. We cannot say that they just made up pieces of fiction. It's the ground reality. So nothing is safe. Again, a valid argument. The point is here is that we are trying to acknowledge it. So to keep this thought at the back of our mind, that the holistic system, the whole upgrade is like a reset. When reset happens, then hopefully all of these things we might be able to see some small differences over a period of time. Let's just keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best. Or people would say it's a jungle out there. No one follows the law. And this is especially true, unfortunately, and again, going but just by the anecdotal evidence, by the upper class. They can speed. They know that they will not be cited. They will not be pulled over. The police officer will not have the authority to do anything like that, to take any action against them. And whether it's following the traffic law, following the other ordinances, whatever the laws of the country are, people just feel that they can just break the laws and not follow them. And again, no sense of accountability, no sense of commitment that no, this is what I got to do, and this is the right just because it's the right thing to do. And then again, we talked about anecdotal evidence earlier on. Again, another piece where, and we have so many of these. We are everyone you talk to would have some stories to tell. That I know so many people who were cheated in the business. So you talk about having a fairness, having an honesty, having integrity, having morality within this country, when none of it exists. People have been cheated out of their businesses. How do you counter that? Again, it's a part of the system. That's the world that we're living in. It's an unfortunate reality, but we just have to acknowledge that this is the reality of the ground today. Or have you not heard this? I will never trust another Pakistani again. Again, going into a personal dealing, going into a professional dealing, investing your money, your time into a venture with somebody. What level of trust, what level of confidence do you have that the other person will not steal what you have or stab you in your back when you turn away? All the worst could happen because the worst has happened to other people. Those stories are at the back of our mind, and again, unfortunate reality that these things do happen. Again, we need to acknowledge them. Or let's talk about the fact that law protects the rich. We just alluded to that very briefly, and and those with influence. Nothing works for common people. So they, again, we have heard stories that it's impossible even to report a lodge a complaint, to report an FIR, to get them to even register the complaint. That's again the reality of what people are dealing with. When something bad happens, they don't get the justice, they don't get the authorities to come and protect them, to give them what they need. And corruption. How can you possibly have a discussion about Pakistan without talking about corruption really every step of the way? Corruption is deeply ingrained into our society. How do you counter that? So, again, we are hoping that as we continue with this presentation, we'll see some ways that we could maybe bring about some changes within the society. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how we are going to do this. What do we say to the naysayers? And you are probably right. In fact, not probably, you are definitely right. And maybe it will never work. And maybe this is too ambitious a plan. Again, if you see just in a few more slides, we'll show you what the whole overall plan, the whole expanse of this of the outline here is. You will see it's a very large ambition, very large project here. Maybe we'll never be able to find the resources to make it work. Even if we are committed to this, to making it work somehow, we will not be able to find the resources. Or that this expects people to be honest. Maybe for that reason alone, it's not going to work. So again, we are acknowledging that this is the ground reality. That this expects politicians to shift their focus to the country. Really, really is going to happen? What world are we living in? That said, all of these are the ground realities, but is there something we owe to our country? So that's the question. I'll keep coming back to this throughout the presentation. That despite how things are, despite what is going on, is there something we could do? So, what are our choices? Do nothing. People are dying. Unfortunate things are happening. We read about them in the newspapers all the time. People have lost hope. There are stories that people are killing their children and writing letters to that. I'm not able to pay rent for the last 5 months, and I've got no options, no recourse, so there's nothing that I can do. Cannot see my children hungry anymore. It happens. It happens almost a daily basis. We have no reserves. We are looking at the plight of the country. We are looking at the fact that people have no personal savings. We are looking at the fact that the country is not able to provide the safety net that as every society must be able to provide to people at the lowest end of the spectrum. We just don't have the reserves to be able to provide that anymore. Or that we have sabotaged the very projects that would have brought some respite. What do I mean by this? During the recent financial crisis that we are going through, given the fact that we have drained our foreign reserves to the lowest possible level, perhaps the lowest in the history or lowest in decades, because we had no funds, no ability to make payments to send the money abroad, we stopped buying the raw material that our factories require. So that means the downstream impact of that, our production has stopped, which means the problem of today we are now, because of that, we are sabotaging what could have happened tomorrow, what could have turned the things around for us by producing by maximizing on our manufacturing. We have stifled our manufacturing because we don't have the raw material, because we're not investing in that. If you do nothing, folks, this is what's going to happen and what will continue to happen. That we've got there's no way to sugarcoat this ineffective leadership. People seem absolutely clueless about what to do. And by this, I mean, unfortunately, our political leaders. And even though we'll try very best to not take political sides or to even go into that direction, we'll just be focusing on facts and what the possibilities are. So, and hopefully we'll be able to stay loyal to that. But this is it a fact? Is it not? That no matter which political party is governing the country, they are clueless in terms of what the actual problems are, and even if they know what the problems are, on how to solve them. We just have statements. We just have newspaper headlines. They know how to speak. They know how to speak loudly and be emphatic. But then again, what solutions are they actually providing? And the problem is so bad now that even our friendly countries that have been with us for decades, that we have supported them when we were able to, they are now hesitant to step forward. So this is something that we must acknowledge. Um, Pakistan's population today, by some estimates, is close to 230 million. In 10 years, it'll be touching 300 million. 300 million. So in the next 10 years, we'll have 70 million people, more people in Pakistan. Where would they live? What would they eat? What water would they tap into? Which schools would their children attend? Imagine all this. If you think the problems are bad today, if you think we have got difficult challenges today, just imagine what's going to happen years from now. So these are really our options. Do nothing or do something. Do anything. Anything is better than nothing, right? So let's start. Let's start and let's just see where we might end up. Allah, I mean, ultimately our faith is with Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah alone can guide us. Let's rely upon Him to show us the way. We have ideas. You're sure we have got plenty of ideas. Let's pull them. Let's go forward. Let's bring the right people who can steer the discussion conversation in the right direction, who can help us frame the right questions. Let's come up with some path forward. Even if nothing works, even if all these efforts are completely wasted efforts, let's at least be able to look at the future generations and tell them, hey, sorry we're leaving you a mess, but we tried. And my sort of outcome that I'm looking at. That we are all accountable to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala when we face Him, and He'll ask us that, what did you do with all the talent, all the resources I provided you? What are we going to say? I want us to be able to say we tried. So your choices, having heard all the arguments, having acknowledged what the challenges are, we've got these two choices. I enjoyed the presentation, but I have no faith in what you're proposing here. It will never work. I'm done here. Good luck with what you guys are trying to do, and I'm out. Either you say this, or you say, hey, I still have some hope left. Let's take the next step. But wait, before you make this choice, let me add one more thing. Here's my one more thing. What we are doing here is a thought experiment. It's a mental exercise. We are not asking for any commitments. We're not asking for any financial contributions. We're just saying, come on board, show your expertise in whatever subject area you might be an expert in. Help us frame the question. Help us find solutions, find possibilities, and at least we might be able to address some of the low-hanging fruit, some of the easier to implement projects, and we might be able to get forward with those. Help us find them. And then here's the other thing that I really, really want us to underline. The next few years will pass regardless, whether we do something or not. This is 2023. We'll hopefully all be alive 10 years from now, 15 years from now. And whether we do something today or not, we'll be at some juncture 15 years from now. If you think it's difficult now, maybe try this, do nothing, and see where we end up 10 years from now, 15 years from now. We just shared with you the population area, and that's just one area where we see a monumental challenges ahead of us. So here's something I would like to point out. This graph is based on child's weight at birth, but just forget about what the graph is based on. This is a very typical growth curve. And this is the growth over time. If you look at it, that if you time goes from left to right, if you see at the beginning of the curve here, imagine every line represents a different country. Imagine this, that at the beginning of the timeline, all the countries of the world, or the countries which are on this plot, maybe 8 or 9 of those, they are close with each other in terms of their resources and where they are. But look at this, that as time progresses, some of the countries are on a much massive growth spurt than some of the other countries. So if you look at this chart, let's say let's say that the whole time horizon is 25 years. So let's say we see where we are 5 years after this origin point. We see that if you are the lowest and you are comparing yourself against the highest, this is the level of jump you need to go through to be able to catch up. Imagine the journey becomes much harder the longer you wait. The longer you wait, the difference between the countries gets much higher, much harder. And also, if you acknowledge something else, the countries which are doing well, they have got the resources now that they could invest. So they're on an exponentially growth curve, whereas we are flatlining. This is something I really wanted to bring home. That if you think the challenges are hard now, just imagine how they're going to be a few years from now. Okay, so again, back to the choices. I've enjoyed the presentation. I'm still not with you. My heart doesn't say that we should spend our time and efforts on it, and I'm done here. Either you say this, or you say, let's try. Let's take the next step. I really hope you stay with me, and we'll see you in the next slide.